so that you guys get to, those of you who don't know each other, who may have been touching this field from different parts and times and space, you'll have some time to connect in and feel each other as well. Okay, so let's take a minute and just really invite ourselves to fully arrive here. And like, you know, before, like, the part of the medicine of gathering this time of year is just like all of us have been out in our different fields and our different journeys and our different flows and our different like inner and outer pilgrimages. And one of the real gifts of this time of year is that in kind of Earth's mytho-poetic realms, this is the time of year when everyone starts to return. This is the time of year when everyone starts to kind of like gather themselves from the edges where they've journeyed to, and starts to kind of like, like, where's the community? You know, this is when kids go back to school, and this is when the first fruits are starting to come forward on the trees, and we're starting to count, like, wow, look at all those seeds we planted, and what's here? How many apples do we have? How many peaches do we have? You know, who went to a great, amazing place? Who has medicine to share from the farthest corners of the world? And so this is this beautiful time where we can come back together. And as we do that as well, you know, the bodies, our bodies in harmonic union with Gaia are in the process of starting to kind of pull our energy back from the outer edges, right? We're starting to, like, Gaia has really, like, she's fruiting, you know, she's blossomed all her flowers for the year, and she's starting to fruit. And as the trees create this kind of like this fruiting, and they're giving all the last bits of their nectar and energy out into the world, there is this really deep, beautiful, profound ingathering that starts to occur. And this time of year, it's almost imperceptible. You know, it's almost this just like really tiny, like, oh, I'm gonna just start barely bringing myself back in from the edges of where I've been. It's curious because we tend to think of winter as being the underworld. And in so many ways it is. And at the same time, when we are really tracking out on the edges of our consciousness and expanding and moving and growing and pilgrimaging and like expanding in that solar light, we have parts of us that are also going through these massive shedding and dying and being reborn. And we're going to talk about that too. So as we're starting to gather here in this space, and as we're starting to gather with Gaia, as she's bringing the tiny imperceptible parts of her back into the center of herself, so that she has the energy that she needs to be able to really rest. Yeah, we're going to do that here together too. So now that we've kind of had the initial hubbub and buzzing of the arrival, I'm just going to invite us back into the center of ourselves. Back into the center of our own pillars of light. And just noticing any parts of you that are like in the mental realms, you know, you're hanging out in what needs to happen in the next hour. You're hanging out in what happened a couple of hours ago, and yeah, what do people think of me? Do I belong here? I can hear all of that in the field. And the answer is yes, you belong, and you're welcome. There we go. Good. So just starting to arrive here together in this circle. Just starting to let the breath in every exhale drop us down a little bit deeper into the center of the center. And just noticing any places of tension or contraction. Maybe softening the jaw. And really even imagining, allowing the roots. I like to think of the base of my tailbone kind of turning from this little tip into like unbraiding a tail, and just letting all the different filaments and nerves and threads of your dragon tail just really start to descend. Start to descend down deeper into the water table and mycelial networks. And for any of you who can notice any tension or contraction in the back of your heart, just inviting you to soften and open the back of your heart. Just kind of, you can even let your body move if you need to. There we go. And then just noticing a little bit lower in your body if there are any places of tension or contraction around your sacrum, the lower wings. And just inviting the back wings, these lower wings in your sacrum, to really begin to expand outward through the back. If you can, just taking a moment to notice this central column of light. In the center of your body, in the center of your spine. This is the place of the great ingathering, the place where the light begins to gather. So for a moment, let's just take a few breaths together and equally notice the spaciousness around our bodies. And then with the next breath, just noticing the centralization of light in the center. And just pulling any parts of yourself that you notice. You might be trying to run away, trying to hide or run away. Just breathing them into the center of this light. The center of the center. So this is the first gathering right here in this moment, just the gathering of ourselves, the gathering of ourselves back here. And we might even begin, if we can attune ourselves to the sensitivity enough, we might actually be able to feel and sense and know ourselves, the architecture of our subtle body, the space and the light. And then we might also be able to attune ourselves to the others here as well. So just take a moment in your psychic vision and your inner awareness to just sense the others who are here, these beloveds who you may or may not know, but are certainly part of the same soul family. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And this is part of the second gathering, you know, this gathering of each other, this gathering together. Okay, so here we are. Just like out of curiosity, how many of you over the last 6 months since the last eclipse cycle, since the eclipse cycles in March, have been through a level of depth and death and descent, a disorganization, a shattering, a dissolution, a fragmentation, a reorganization that kind of shocked you? Can you guys just raise your hands? Yeah. Yeah, for me, just personally in March, I mean, after having Oren, which I'll talk about in a minute, but we went to Hawaii and we went and dieted this beautiful tree. I think Ellen is here and Julene, and some others who are joining on the replay. But we went to Hawaii and we dieted this really beautiful tree called Ohialehua. And I know Kelly just made Ohialehua earrings, which I'm saving my pennies for if you have any left. And, you know, Ohialehua, without going too deep into her grid, because she is a whole grid herself, really just took everything that I was descending into through my journey of becoming a mother. And wow, she was like, look, you know, if you want to do this thing where you actually reclaim the Great Mother and you actually go through the true organic reclamation of the mother grids, the true, like down to the depths of everything that you are, reclamation of the mother grids, there's a serious amount of dying that needs to occur, you know? And I was like, damn, because you know what? I've been doing this for a while. You know, I've been doing this for a while. This is not my first rodeo. This is absolutely not my first major ego death. This is absolutely not the first really deep descent that I have taken. And I have to say, I really, I kind of thought that I had done like the one big, deep descent that I was going to have to do in this lifetime. I thought I had kind of done it. Anybody else relate to that? Yeah. I mean, like, right, we're like, yeah, we did that one. It's over. Now we get to live in the light, whatever. And of course we do. You know, there comes a place where these things start to collapse. But for me, you know, moving through the journey of becoming a mother and then going into this really deep commitment and diet with Ohialehua was a descent through which I was not sure I would return. And what I mean by that is when we truly go through this process of allowing the threads of our true selves to, or of our separate selves, our false ego structures, the towers we've built to, you know, thinking we're becoming something and making ourselves look a certain way and thinking we're going through this process of ascension, and whatever we're doing, you know, whatever we're doing, whatever stories we're telling, whatever ladders and towers we're building to try to become something, when we go through that process of having all of those stripped away and we are plunged truly into the depths of the darkness, there's a disorientation that occurs that's so deep. It's like we strip, Inanna in her descent, we strip these layers, we just keep descending down and down and down and down through these passageways and portals, and every single time, of course, in the myth of Inanna, we have to take off a layer of these trappings of the ego, or the trappings of the identity, or the trappings of really just orientation to reality. Because that's part of what's happening, is that the orientation that we've had, or I'll speak for myself, the orientation that I had to reality was one that came from disorganized mother grids. Born into a culture disconnected from the mother, born into a mother line that's beautiful in so many ways, and also deeply disconnected from Eros, and deeply disconnected from Earth itself. And through, just recognizing that in becoming a mother, our culture has no capacity to actually hold women through the descent that truly requires to become a mother. And that became very clear to me when Oren was born. And so as Inanna is like going through this descent, right, she's just like taking off all of these pieces and all of these threads, and just like getting nakeder and nakeder and nakeder, until we come to this place of really deep darkness, where not only are we completely naked and we don't know where to go or what to do or what's happening, and every bit of orientation we have has been stripped away, but we also don't have any maps, because if we had the maps, we wouldn't have had to do the descent in the first place. Right? If we had the maps, we wouldn't have had to do the descent in the first place. So now we're just like naked in the dark, cold place with no orientation. And this is largely what the last couple of years of my life has been. It's so humbling, to really like, wow, I thought I went through those passages, and as we keep walking this path, there are more. And of course, on the other end of this mythology, on the other end of this mythology of Inanna and the descent into the Great Mother, we have all the stories from Greek and Roman mythology, these stories of the labyrinth and Daedalus and Icarus. And there's, in these stories of the consciousness getting trapped in these labyrinth structures, for instance, Icarus, there was this like entrapment in the Minoan civilization, this myth of him getting trapped in this labyrinth, okay? Trapped in this labyrinth of consciousness. Like, how do I move through this? I'm continuing to loop in these patterns and cycles and belief systems and stories. And in the myth, what happens is his father, Daedalus, is like, you know what? You can fly out, okay? I will build you these golden wings. I will build you these wings, and that's how we will get you out, okay? So instead of going through the hard, dark descent that Inanna has to go through, where she humbles herself and she really like arrives naked, and she has to learn how to sit in the darkness and let life start to reorganize itself around her, right? There's this other part that we've been taught in our culture, which is like, oh, we just fly out of the labyrinth. If I just get someone who can build me these wings, these golden wings, right? If I can just ascend, certainly if I just work hard enough, or I tap into some sort of like patriarchal consciousness, or I tap into some sort of light, or I tap into some sort of like ancient, angelic, incredible golden power, I can build these wings, and then I can fly out of the labyrinth. And anybody know what happens to Icarus when he has his little wings? What happens? Somebody unmute yourselves and tell me.
He got a little close to the sun.
Too close to the sun. Yeah, he just got too close. He just got too high on himself, and he just got too close to the light without the dark. And his wings melted. And guess where he fell? He fell all the way back into the depths of the unconscious, into the ocean. Okay, so what felt really important to call into this field is this dichotomy that's presenting itself in the collective consciousness right now, right? It's just like this obsession that's coming forward of like, certainly there's something we can do to save ourselves from the experience of being human. And then we have our primordial fertility myths of descending down into the Great Mother. And, you know, what happened to me, which actually is a little bit of a different orientation than Inanna, and one that I'd really like to speak to today as we go through this process of gathering, is that as I sat in what I would call like the mother grid wastelands for months and months and months and months, so disoriented, so uncertain of how I would ever return, so uncertain of, you know, just having those parts that want to like get out of the death process, right? That just want to like pop out of the process. Something started to happen. And from the depths of this space, from the depths of this just continuous surrender, this continuous surrender, and the surrender that requires us to trust what we cannot see, that really asks us to examine all of the beliefs that we hold, that we know. I mean, I'm talking to the point where it's like, do I trust the plants? Do I trust Earth? Do I trust the goddess? Do I trust the mother? Do I trust the cycles of life? Do I trust that actually, if I really die, that life will come again? You know, really entering, yeah. Sorry, Ellen saying something. Yes, Ellen had that post up here too, yeah. It's a pretty deep descent, you know, it's a pretty deep one. And becoming a mother at the same time. Do I really trust the plants? Do I trust all the things I get on here and teach other people to do? And really having to examine such a deep mirror of like, what is my life? What am I offering? What is this? What am I really giving my life to? Okay. Of course, the myth of Inanna, which this is the curious thing that I am so keen to explore this fall. The myth of Inanna is that she eventually, you know, is saved by her sister, and she ascends out of this deep, dark, empty space, and the light slowly returns as she starts to gain her memory, and she starts to come back up to the surface of reality, and then she's crowned the queen of heaven and earth. But Inanna and the black swans have been showing me something a little bit different. So in alchemical mythology also, the black swans we have these images, these representations of the black and the white swans. And of course, we all think of swans as white and the great white, you know, wings of inner union. But as I sat in that darkness over and over and over again, I just felt these big, massive black wings just... And these black wings were not dragon wings, which I expected them to be, but they actually revealed themselves over time as these like black swan wings. And they just, almost as if these black wings could just bring themselves across the depths of the wasteland. They were just pulling themselves, like just running their feathered wings across the entirety of the black wastelands. You know, you feel it? Yeah. They're just like, you know, and they're just like, listen, none of this wasteland is going untouched. You know, that wing, that mother wing, that black swan wing is like, I'm going to touch every part of this wasteland. I'm going to touch every single part of this place, and I'm going to touch all of it. And it was like the Little Mermaid came in. You guys know in the Little Mermaid, she's like, look at this stuff, isn't it neat? And she was like, gather up that little trinket. Come on, there's one over there. She's like, gather up that little trinket. There's one over there. Oh yeah, and part of your power's over there. And you got a piece that's stuck over there. And it was just like, just gathering. And the thing is, the deeper we're able to stay, you know, the deeper we're able to stay, and the deeper we're able to pray, and the deeper we're able to, at every turn, trust the process of human consciousness, trust the process of awakening, and really trust the process of the mother. Really trust the mother. There is naturally, when we can stay until no other part of us is ever trying to do egress. You know, when we fully let go of egress, there is a profound ingathering that starts to occur. And from the edges of the black swan wings all the way to the edges of the wasteland, this light just starts to gather. Just starts to gather. And this is what naturally occurs. There's nothing we have to do to gather. Just as the trees have just gone to the absolute edges of themselves, it's expanded and grown, and they're light, and they're fruits, and it's just like it's given everything it can. Right? What naturally starts to occur is this ingathering of energy. This ingathering. Where the life that we have given, the life that we have lost and given away, and all the power we've given away, and all the memory we've given away, just slowly starts to come together. You know, what we know